You going to give any explanation, or you just want me to launch?
Just launch.
Okay.
For millennia, the Western Abenaki people have called this land home. They have loved and cared for this land. We now have the privilege of gathering here as a religious community. Let us do so, honoring this legacy of love and stewardship. Good morning. Good morning. Now that I have my glasses. I'm Margot Prendergast, your worship associate for today. My pronouns are she, her. On behalf of the entire worship team, I am really glad to see you all this morning. Those of you here in the sanctuary, and those of you watching on the live stream. Hi, everyone.
I'm Tony Whitty, worship associate in training. Thank you for your patience. My pronouns are he, him. Thank you for joining us in this time of worship. We deeply appreciate your presence and fellowship as part of our beloved Unitarian Church of Montpelier. For over 155 years, this church has been a sanctuary for those seeking both spiritual sustenance and peace and justice in the world. With you, we continue on that path. Please know that we have hearing assist devices available on the table at the rear of the sanctuary. You can also listen to and watch the service in the fireplace room downstairs if you wish to leave the sanctuary for any reason.
We love to have newcomers and guests join us for worship. If this is your first or second time visiting and you feel comfortable, you are invited to stand or wave hello at this time so we might offer you a special welcome. Thanks, we're really glad you're here. So newcomers to our congregation are invited to fill out our welcome form that's available at the hospitality table in the vestry during coffee hour so that we can connect with you more fully and offer you a more personal welcome.
Each Sunday, a member of our lay pastoral care team is available in the sanctuary after the service to provide a listening ear if you are seeking support. Our lay pastoral caregiver this Sunday is Victoria Batten, who is waving her hand in the back there. Thank you. Now, we can all join in the welcoming by taking a few moments to turn to your neighbor in the pews and share a few words of greeting. Thank you for sharing your warm greetings. You are invited to continue your conversations after the service during coffee hour. And we will now hear from Ansel Plug of the Stewardship Committee.
Good morning. My name is Ansel Plug, and I'm a member of the stewardship team here at UCM. This Sunday, we begin our annual pledge drive, but before I share more information about the drive, I'd like to invite Margot Prendergast back up here to the pulpit for a testimonial.
So when I was asked why I pledge, the first word I thought of was belonging. I've struggled with where do I belong a lot in my life. I grew up as an occasional Unitarian, which is about as wishy-washy a religious connection I could think of. Over the years, I kept being drawn in, first in my growing up church, then at UCM. I loved the sense of community, the music, the celebrations. It all enriched me. And I never really felt like I belonged. I stopped coming here regularly in the years I attended graduate school and the years when Sunday service meant making pancakes for my teens so I could catch a glimpse of them. The day I returned to attending church more regularly, something profound happened to me. Many people greeted me saying, "It's so good to see you again. I'm so glad you're here." I realized at that moment that my presence here matters, that what I have to offer is really important. And I started to believe that I do belong. And I just have to tell you one more profound experience I had last July as I worked with a team in the mucky basement, hauling out sodden stuff, while others upstairs mopped, brought food, made decisions. So many of us had come together that day because we belong to UCM, to Montpelier, to each other. And so I believe that UCM and the world, transformed by our care, looks like each of us sharing our gifts and receiving gifts. And the synergy that happens there, that's what feeds our community, that grows our community, that makes our community strong.
Thank you, Margot. So this is the time of year that we focus on our financial stewardship of this spiritual community by pooling our resources in service of our mission. As Margot shared, our theme this year is transformed by our care. Take a moment and imagine, what will a world transformed by our care look like? I imagine a world that is just, that is compassionate and creative, where people and other living things can be wholly themselves and live fulfilled lives. What role does UCM play in that transformation? What role do all of us play in that transformation? I invite you to ponder this over the next couple of weeks. Now, I want to take a moment to invite members of the stewardship team and any of the very generous folks who have offered to be stewards during this drive to stand up here in the sanctuary. Yeah. This is a big team effort. Thank you, folks. So you all may be receiving a call or email from one of these people. I encourage you to engage with them, make a friend. Thank you, stewards. Today at coffee hour after the service, all of you will be able to pick up your pledge packets downstairs in the vestry. If you don't pick up your pledge packet, we will mail it to you. In the packets, you will find the details of the drive and information that you can use to help determine your pledge. And the stewardship team invites you to stick around for snacks and conversation, and to participate in a community art project. We're gonna draw, color, write about what a world transformed by our care looks like and what UCM means to us. I hope you will join us. Thank you so much, everyone.
And now, let's take a deep breath, make sure our cell phones are silenced, and enter more deeply into our time of worship with the prelude.
invite you to join in the call to worship this morning by responding, "It is good to be together." When the sun is shining and when the snow is falling, it is good to be together. When our hearts feel blessed and full, and when our hearts are broken, it is good to be together. When we feel the power of our connection and when we are feeling all alone, it is good to be together. Because we rest in the shelter of each other, because there is much for which to give thanks, because we need one another. It is good to be together. Come, let us worship together. And let us join our voices in our opening hymn. It's number 298 in the gray hymnal, "Wake Now My Senses." Please rise in body or spirit.
As Tony lights our chalice, I invite folks attending from home to light your own chalice. We light this flame, an enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. And now let us join our voices in saying these words of affirmation adapted from L. Griswold Williams. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end
Good morning. Before I invite the children to come up for a story this morning, I have two things to tell you. One is today is the last day, in fact, we're in the last hours of signing up for March Mystery Madness. You can do that downstairs if you haven't done so and you want to participate. That was number one. The second thing I want to tell you is my face is hurting from smiling this morning because there are at least 3 children that have grown up into adults who are now in our sanctuary this morning, and their presence, one of them's down in the nursery, but my face just hurts from smiling because they're here. You know who you are, and I'm glad you're here. So now I would like to invite all the children to come forward for a story. Glad I got the message to where to move. Good morning. Nice to see you all here this morning. I want to tell you a story about some travelers. They were friends. They were traveling on a mountainside, and they were talking. And just like the verse in our song that we sing about the 7 principles, when I get up here, I forget what it is. We welcome, well, that's not it. Anyway, that we're free to learn together and search for what is true. Thank you very much. You can look for that in the first page of your hymnal. Anyway, that's what we do on Sunday morning when we're all together. We search for what is true, and we ask each other questions sometimes. And as these guys were walking along, these people, they were talking about all kinds of things. They were talking about cats' whiskers. They were talking about the color of the sun. They were talking about giving. They were talking about all kinds of things. And the youngest one of the friends said, I have a question. What makes someone happy? And the older friend, was probably a little bit wiser, said, that's a great question. Let's see if we can figure out the answer to that. And as they walked, they heard a bell ringing. And maybe it sounded like our church bell on Sunday morning. And they looked over. It was kind of foggy that day, but they looked down and they saw the rooftops of a village and several steeples, I'm sure, sticking up through the fog. And they said, let's go down there and let's go down to the village. So they went down, and when they got there, all the doors were closed, all the windows, all the shades were pulled down. There was nobody outside. It was very strange. So they went up and they knocked on the door. No one answered. They knocked on another door, and no one answered. They thought, this is kind of strange. And one of the friends said, I've got an idea. They started gathering sticks, and they put a pile of sticks together, and they built a fire. And as they were building the fire, a young person came out. And that person looked over and thought, I wonder what's going on. And they walked over to the friends building the fire, and they said, what are you doing? They said, we're making soup. All we have so far is this fire and this small pot and the water that we got from the village well. But what we could really use is a bigger pot. We could make a lot more soup if we had a bigger pot. And the young person said, I bet we've got one at my house. I'll go home and get one. The friends who are traveling said, before you do that, could you do one other thing for us? Could you help us out here? Could you find 3 smooth stones? Sure, I can do that. So they gathered the 3 smooth stones, put them in the water that was on the fire, and went home to see if they could get a bigger pot. The mother said, what are you doing? She said, I'm getting a bigger pot. For the strangers in the village, they're making a special soup. It's called, well, I don't know what it's called, but they're using 3 stones to make this soup. It should be delicious. So the mother said, that sounds a little strange. So she went out and was looking at the pot and got the bigger pot now, so they got more water, 3 stones. They said, this soup is pretty tasty, but it would I have a very loud voice, but I also have been hearing myself, so I know how it goes. Okay. And that's what friends do. They help one another. We are transformed by our care. So the mother said, well, I've got some salt. I've got pepper too. So she gathered up some spices and she went out to where the soup was, and she was working, and they were looking in the soup, and the stranger said, it would be even better if we had some carrots. Well, now the villagers are starting to get curious, and they're looking out the window, and they said, I wonder what's going on. And they said, we need some carrots. And one of the villagers opened his door and said, I've got carrots. I've got a few. He didn't bring just a few. He brought a whole bunch of carrots. So now they have salt and pepper and spices and 3 smooth stones and carrots. And slowly but surely, doors in the village started to open, and people came out. They were curious to see what was going on. Before you know it, cabbages were in the soup. Someone brought rice. Someone else brought gluten-free pasta. And they threw it all in together. So someone said, I have this and I have that, and we can add it to the soup, and we have celery, we have onions, we have garlic, we have all these things. And the more they brought out, the more people wanted to bring out. And more things went into the soup. Before you know it, all of the doors in the village were open, and all of the people were gathered around. They were all bringing things for the soup, and suddenly, tables. People brought tables out, and tablecloths, and spoons, and bowls, and more people gathered. And while they were getting ready, they noticed that, I think this soup is ready. So they got in line with their bowls and their spoons, and there were some children who said, thank you. The children said, there are some people who still can't come out of their houses. Let's take some soup to them. So the children took bowls of soup, hot, steaming, stone soup, to their neighbors. And by the time they got back, it was their turn in line. So they all got this warm, hot soup that they'd all worked together to build. And as they were sitting around the table, eating the soup and smiling at what they had created, somebody came out with a fiddle. Maybe it was Kenrick, maybe it was Elaine, or maybe it was Isla, who's downstairs. They came out with fiddles, and they started playing, and people started dancing, and people started singing. And the 3 friends, well, I think there were more than 3, but the friends left, and as they sneaked away, they said, this is what it takes to be happy. Sharing what we have, giving what we have, joining together in community. I think that's pretty cool. And so they slipped away from the village while the villagers were still partying way into the night. And they said, what else could we talk about? Do you know anything about the eclipse? And that's where my story is going to end today. So I'm going to invite you to join with me in the children's chapel, and we will see our parents in a little while.
Here are some UCM community opportunities. This coming week, there are 2 ways you can bring your Unitarian Universalist values into the public square. On Wednesday, you can join members of the Climate Action Team at the Faith Climate Action Day at the State House. And on Saturday, you can join members of the Racial Justice Group at the Mass Poor Peoples and Low-Wage Workers Moral March and State House Assembly. Details about these events and other ways that you can engage in the life of the congregation can be found in the weekly e-news. The act of giving is a spiritual practice, as important as any other element in our shared time of worship. Our generosity is a form of love. Our gifts freely given help us to practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Each month, through the UCM Community Pouch Program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. This month's Community Pouch recipient is Rainbow Bridge Community Center. As I see already, you can find the offering pouch at the end of the pews and send them towards the middle. Half of our cash offerings will go to the Rainbow Bridge Community Center. The other half will directly support our ministry of this congregation. If you wish to designate your entire offering to the community pouch, please indicate that with a note attached to your cash or in the memo line of your check. Checks will go to the church unless designated otherwise. You can also make a financial contribution by donating online. We are so grateful to all of you for your generosity in its many forms. Your offering is now being gratefully received.
Thank you, choir, for that. And let us allow that vibrancy of music and hope to flow through our space, in our bodies. As I invite you to settle into this time of meditation and prayer, a time for us to become more attuned to our spirits, to our bodies, to our hearts, to pay attention to our attention. I invite you to take a few breaths. Allow your body to settle more fully wherever you might be sitting, however your body might be in this moment. Knowing that it is enough to simply be here. That sometimes being here is all there is. I invite you to notice who and what are on your heart and mind in this moment. The cares and concerns and gratitude that you hold in your heart. And as we turn our attention to all that is on our hearts and minds this morning, I want to share some sad news from our church community. UCM member Colin Tate passed away in the early morning hours yesterday. Colin had been primarily homebound the past few years, and in the last few weeks was receiving hospice care. We can give thanks that he died peacefully and surrounded by family at home. You might recall that Colin's wife, Debbie, who was also a church member, died 5 years ago this month. So let us extend our love and care to Colin's family and hold tenderly this loss to our own church community. And I invite us to make room in our hearts now for those people who have gone before us, whose presence we continue to feel. Those of this church community and beyond, knowing that we are inheritors of this sanctuary for worship, of this caring community, of this faith for seekers and justice makers. Those who have come before us have paved a way, bringing their gifts of care, humor, compassion, and service. Let us remember them now and hold with care all of those who our love touches in this moment. And let us share in a time of quiet meditation together. This reading is the poem entitled Big Lesson by Rosemary Watola Tromer. Today it feels so simple. We are here to take care of each other. How could we ever forget? As if soil could forget it is here to feed the trees. As if trees could forget they are here to feed the soil. How could anything ever get in the way of generosity? How could we ever greet each other with any words besides, "How can I help you?" As if light could forget it is here to help illuminate. As if dark could forget it is here to help us heal. So 2 weeks ago, Sally asked you, those of you who were here for that worship service, to reflect on why you come to church, why you participate in the life of this congregation. And you came up with many responses: inspiration, friendship, community, service to others, values, community, belonging, music, munchkins, community. That was a popular one. Within this question, there is the assumption that you are here of your own volition and choice. A congregation is a unique entity. It is a community that no one is mandated to be a part of. There are no laws saying that you must participate in a church or any other religious community. And our faith has no belief that obligates our attendance or participation. We often call Unitarian Universalism a freely chosen faith. And even if you were raised Unitarian Universalist, our understanding is that the decision to continue your engagement with the UU congregation and to identify as Unitarian Universalist is entirely up to you. This community is also unique as a place in which the bonds that tie us together are not necessarily familial. While some of you arrive here as a family unit, and I have to say, shout out to the Kites for their multi-generational pew in the middle of the church. Some of you arrive here as a family unit, but from individual to individual and family to family, we cross boundaries of familial kinship here. We cross boundaries of age. We cross boundaries of ancestry. We cross boundaries of economic class and educational background as we come together. And so we are a collection of people with diverse backgrounds and histories, hopes and dreams, choosing to dedicate our time, our attention, and resources to the endeavor of being a community. And not just a community that's concerned with our internal affairs alone, but a community that is part of a larger ecosystem of concern made up by the people and the living beings with whom we share this place we call home. There is an affection that lies beneath our coming together. We are drawn here for the people and for what we can do with one another rather than alone. And with the limitations that we all face of time, attention, and resource, there must be care present if you are choosing to be a part of this community. Our care is powerful. We can often think of care as gentle and soft, nurturing. Powerful might not be a word we would associate with care, but care is powerful because it can lead to change and transformation. We experienced this together in the wake of the flood this past July. An unbidden transformation took place as the waters inundated homes, businesses, and this church building.
And as Margot described so beautifully in her testimonial, the care of this community was evident as you showed up, along with strangers and church neighbors, to haul bins, pass buckets, and mop floors. Your care was evident in the financial contributions made to our flood recovery fund. Your care has been at the heart of our ongoing healing and recovery since the flood waters crested at their historic heights and finally receded. Since that time, we have worked together to carry on with our essential ministries. We adapted as we moved locations for the first 6 Sundays of the church year. Can anyone remember that? To worship together, to teach our children. You worked together to reopen this building, not just for our own use, but for our broader community as well. Transformed by our care is the theme of this year's annual pledge drive. And as a congregation, we have continued to experience the transforming power of your collective care. Earlier this month, our congregation, through the Racial Justice Group, joined with Salon Black Walnut and Central Vermont Showing Up for Racial Justice to host the second Black Our Story event right here in our vestry, which was open to the public, and members of our racial justice group provided helping hands to set up, greet guests, serve food, and clean dishes. As people of all ages and diverse racial and ethnic backgrounds listen to music and poetry performed by Black artists, and then joyfully move their bodies to the rhythms of music spun by the evening DJs. And as one of Salon Black Walnut's founders, Pharma Ama, shared in worship the very next day, to experience in real life, in our very bodies, the beloved community is beautiful and powerful. This kind of experience, made possible by the care of this community, can transform how we understand ourselves, our relationships, and our sense of possibility. In our chalice circles, an individual's feeling of isolation is transformed into a feeling of connection by the caring presence and the deep listening of others, whose stories are similar and yet uniquely theirs. In our spiritual exploration classes, a child's shyness is transformed into playfulness by the caring words and the guidance of a grown-up who patiently and lovingly allows the child to be themselves. Through our climate action team, a long-time activist's discouragement is transformed into re-engaged, hopeful action by the determination of others who remind them of what is still in their power to do and to save, despite all that has already been lost. Our care is expressed and shared in many different ways, through our presence, attention, and non-judgmental listening, through our direct financial assistance to someone facing a lack of resources and a growing pile of unpaid bills. Our care is shared through grieving together the destruction and hardship wrought by climate disaster, and through taking up the work of cleaning up, rebuilding, and discerning our future together. All of this matters deeply. Our ministry matters in a context in which religious institutions are facing pressures of all kinds. Attendance and membership in religious communities has been trending downwards across denominations for many years, and the fate of many religious entities is uncertain. And yet I have witnessed again and again how absolutely vital this congregation is to our community. We provide a space for gathering and exchanging ideas, for nurturing the soul through voices that join and sync in harmony. We partner with others to offer safe shelter and warm meals. We stand here prominently on Main Street with a declaration that Black Lives Matter and that people of all genders are welcome, no matter how many times we have to replace that proudly hanging flag. And yet, with broader trends going the way they are, with an uncertain future for religious institutions of all kinds, it is not outside the realm of possibility that this place, this congregation, could cease to exist in 5 years or 10 years down the road. With these pressures and concerns, I believe it is more important than ever that we commit to continuing to be a community that can offer care for the weary soul and uphold values of justice, equity, interdependence, and peace. And today, the Stewardship Committee and I are asking you to prioritize the care of this congregation. There is care in attending to the stewardship of our congregation as we ensure that we have the financial resources necessary to continue our ministry of caring transformation. As we embark upon this year's annual pledge drive, we do so in a moment when we are faced by tough financial realities on many fronts. The city and neighboring towns, our school districts, and our state are grappling with tough financial realities. And these are realities that we face in our own personal lives, too, of increased costs and expenses, and for the most part, decreased or stagnant incomes. And this reality may be more or less true for you, as it is the case that within this congregation, you each have differing financial circumstances. However, the feeling that we are being squeezed is all around us. Caring for an institution of voluntary involvement and freely offered monetary contributions in this climate poses some challenges. What remains true, though, is that it is the pooling together of our resources that allows us to continue our ministry. Each of you reflecting on what this congregation means to you, determining what you can give from within your means, and committing to give. That makes it possible for this community to carry out its mission. Our goal for this pledge drive is to raise 5% more in pledges than was raised for this current church year, a total of $382,000. This increase is necessary to keep up with inflated costs and to maintain our current staffing levels and compensation. And I can report that we have already raised $86,212 towards this goal. Thank you to those who pledged early. And my spouse and I join you in making an annual financial commitment to this congregation. We believe in this congregation's vital ministry and role in the community. And as we have considered our finances and our commitment to the ministry and mission of the Unitarian Church of Montpelier, we have decided to increase our pledge by 5% to a total of $5,292 for the year. I ask you to give careful consideration to your own financial situation, as well as your commitment to this church, and to pledge generously within your own budget. We need this place to survive, to continue to exist, and to thrive. And we need this place for our own survival. We need this religious community to inspire our hope, to affirm our agency, to grow our compassion, to expand our love, to deepen our understanding. We need people with whom we are bound by covenant to continue in the endeavor of creating a more just and peaceful world and living sustainably on this planet. We need this place, and we need one another. As the poet Rosemary Watola Tromer writes, "Today it feels so simple. We are here to take care of each other. How could we ever forget? How could anything ever get in the way of generosity? May our generosity flow as we take up the work of caring for each other and this beloved community.
So may it be. And I'll invite you to join in our closing hymn, which is Sia Hamba. The words will be projected up front if you wish to be hands-free, but you can also find the hymn in the teal hymnal, number 1030. And please rise in body or spirit.
I will mention one other thing about the words that will be projected. You'll only see we're going to be doing 4 verses, and each verse only contains 1 line, but you will repeat it multiple times. So when you see Sia Hamba Kuka Nyen Kwen Kos, you're going to be repeating that a whole bunch of times. And the choir will sing all the melody the first time through, so that you can sort of get the hang of it, and then we'll break into some harmony. Just sing some of those syllables up there, and you'll be fine.
As we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice and carry within each one of us its healing flame, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days ahead. And now, please let us join Paula in singing our unison mission statement together.
Some of you folks who have been here a long time might remember, probably well over a decade ago, that Sally commissioned music to go with the mission statement for the children in religious education, as it was called then. So they have unearthed a golden oldie for this service. So I think some of you might remember. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve humanity.
Thank you, Paula. And as we march together, whether on 2 feet or on wheels, we continue on in the light of all that is holy. May you go from here sharing your caring heart generously. May you go in peace and return again in love. And we conclude our service with the postlude offered today by Lotus.